Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the on-track series video for the German Tier 10 tech tree tank destroyer, the Grille 15. We will do a video on the Waffle E100 separately. It'll be on-track add-on Waffle E100 because that gets two guns that are fully competitive and it's generally a lot of fun to use either gun, so I'm going to just do a video that covers both of the guns and make it so that this video isn't 2 hours long in that regard. So, yeah, if you do like the video as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below as it really does help out the channel. And yeah, the on-track series. What we do for the on-track series is play through Tier 5 to Tier 10, so you get the general gist for the line that you might be grinding through, as well as getting the setups for all the vehicles, and you get to see some of the tanks that you might not see very often. So you get, again, the general gist of how they all play, and so you know how to set up for the tank, so you can try and just get going with it. So we're starting off here at the PZ SFL IVc, which is affectionately known as the Death Toaster, because it's a toaster, and it brings death. Because, I mean, look at it, it looks like a toaster. But there we go. So the PZ SFL IVc, what's it like? Well, Mr. Death Toaster is a very good tank destroyer at Tier 5. You've got very good camo, you've got good view range when you use the binoculars, you've got a great top speed. The only two real downsides to this vehicle is the fact that you are as big as a house, which means you've got no gun depression because you've only got 5 degrees, which is limiting, and the fact that you are made of absolute spitting Kleenex, which means any derp gun basically one-shots you, which is a sad time for the PZ SFL IVc. Well, I'm just going to call it the Death Toaster. It's a mouthful. But yeah, it's a sad time in that regard. But in terms of playing it like a stealthy tank destroyer, you have to be a bit patient. And that's how you're going to get the most out of it, because it is a very good tank destroyer. It's got good damage per minute. It just racks up damage very, very quickly, and it's very hard to spot for a lot of these low tiers. So what's it got in terms of statistics with the setup I run? Well, it's got a 60 km/h top speed, 20 km/h reverse speed, 400 horsepower engine, which is 15.38 horsepower per ton ratio. And with 2.11 on soft, 1.15 on medium, and 0.96 on firm, they're not the worst ground resistances in the universe, and they don't hold the tank back whatsoever, really, which makes it a very, very mobile tank destroyer indeed, which is definitely nice. You got 51.96 degree a second hull rotation speed, which means the vehicle does turn very quickly on its tracks, which is great for getting the gun on target. You've got the 238 meters of still concealment with the camo net active on this vehicle, which is very, very good at Tier 5. And without the camo net, you've got 297 meters of still concealment, which is still very good for a Tier 5, and quite a few of the tanks at this tier will struggle to spot you with the kind of view range you can get on most of them. So that is great for the vehicle. You do have 350 meters of on-the-move concealment, though, and that is poor. And that means this tank gets spotted quite easily, though, when it is trying to get into position. But if you are being that stealthy tank destroyer and you're in the right spot at the right time, you are going to be very difficult to be able to dig out and get spotted. You got 506 meters of view range on this vehicle with the binoculars. If you take the binocs off, you've got 422, which is still decent for a Tier 5, quite honestly. But 506 will spot everything you ever need to see at Tier 5, which is definitely very, very nice. You got 1.2 accuracy during rotation with a 3.95 accuracy during movement, which is very typical of tank destroyers that generally don't have the best accuracy during movement and rotation to compensate for generally how good the guns are, or the DPM, or any of that good stuff, or even the camo at this point. You also have 0.31 accuracy at 100 meters, which means that you are very, very accurate when you do get it aimed in, which is lovely. Again, this gun is absolutely fabulous, this 88mm gun on this tank. Absolutely fabulous gun. With a 1.81 second aim time as well with the setup that we run, it means you can get this gun aimed in very, very quickly, and you can just rack up damage really fast by getting this gun going, which is great for the Death Toaster. You got 5 degrees of gun oppression, which is incredibly limiting, and that is a royal pain for this vehicle. As you can see, it means you've got to go really far over to be able to get the gun down on target. And you got 5 degrees to the left and 5 degrees to the right of gun yaw limit, which means it only looks to the left 5 degrees and to the right 5 degrees, which is also very, very limiting for the tank. But you have a fast track traverse, which kind of combats that. A 6.65 second reload is 2.1k DPM, which is really nice for a Tier 5 vehicle with 240 Alpha, which is also very nice for the tier. 194 penetration on the standard AP, 234 on the premium APCR, with 1,000 meters a second shell velocity on the AP, 1250 on the APCR is good velocity, good penetration for the tier. You will not struggle to pen anything at this tier with those penetration stats, which is lovely. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, I run Born Leader, Camouflage Expertise, Green Thumb, Situational Awareness, Run and Gun, Radio Jamming, Clutch Braking, Track Mechanic, Armour Angling, with the Advanced Loader, the Binos, the GLD, and the Camo Net. Camo Net and Camouflage Expertise with Green Thumb just keep yourself unspotted that little bit easier. The run and gun to get the accuracy during movement down as low as possible so the aim circle doesn't bloom out too badly. Radio jamming to get unspotted 3 seconds faster, which is always nice for this kind of stealthy tank destroyer. Armor angling to reduce the amount of damage coming to the tank by 5%, as you're always taking damage. Clutch braking to get the track traverse faster, so we can get the gun on target that little bit quicker as well. The GLD to get the aim time in quicker, so that we can get this gun going faster, as well as the advanced loader naturally, to get the best out of the DPM. As we finish the game there, we're 1653 base XP with the 2.4k damage for the Death Toaster. And that's the Death Toaster. Basically, get yourselves into good positions where you can just keep the gun farming, and it's going to go well for you, because that's what that tank can do, but it's got the mobility to get you there as well. Which is where the next tank in the list, which is tier 6, which is the Nashorn, starts to fall down a little bit, because you lose that mobility that you had in the Death Toaster, because the Death Toaster had that 60 km/h top speed. The Nashorn, however, has a 40 km/h top speed, so it's a lot slower, which means it's a lot harder to get into those early game positions for you to be able to get the damage out that little bit easier. For me, the Nashorn is one that I like the PZ SFL IVc, the Death Toaster. I like that TD at tier 5. It's a solid TD. If you just got to know that you've got to be a bit more patient with it and be in positions where you can use the camo of it, because if you don't use the camo, you're going to die very, very quickly. And that's how it goes for the Nashorn as well. The problem is the Nashorn takes a while to get to these positions, so sometimes, especially at tier 6 and 5, with the games going quite quickly, which is what I had a lot of games where I've had better games than the one you're going to see here, but they all finished in about 3 minutes, and you sit there going, I can't make a video on that, I can't talk about the tank long enough or quick enough for that, you know, that sort of thing. So the games do go quite quickly, which means it's a bit of a struggle sometimes to get into the position you want to be in, which is what we were about to do here. A lot of their team get spotted along the way, along the HJ line, and I go, okay, my position's useless because nothing's really got spotted down the 1-2 line. And you realise that you've spent a good minute or two trying to get into position, which is what it's like with the Nashorn. So the Nashorn, it has a 40 km/h top speed, which is neither is it too slow, but it's not really quick, and for this kind of tank destroyer, it's a bit of a pain. 15 km/h reverse speed, which is pretty decent though, to be fair. 300 horsepower engine, which is 12.48 horsepower per ton ratio, so you've not actually got the best horsepower per ton ratio in the universe, so it can be a bit sluggish to get to its top speed. 2.11, 1.15 and 0.96 on the soft, medium and firm terrain resistances respectively, which is not dreadful. Again, same as the previous tank. They don't hold you back too badly, but yeah, generally the vehicle is fairly sluggish. You got 38.97 degree a second hull rotation speed, which means the tank does turn pretty quickly on its tracks though, which is decent. You got 234 meters of still concealment with 318 meters of on the move concealment with the build that we run, which means that again you've got very, very good camo and decent on the move concealment, better than you had in the Death Toaster with the setup that we run, which is very, very nice for the tank and is definitely an asset. Because again, and I started running it this way instead of running something like the Flash Hider, because I kept getting spotted trying to get into position, and then when I started running it like this, I didn't get spotted into position as much as I had previously, which is why we're running it like we are. You got 520 meters of view range with the build that we run as well, which means this vehicle spots for itself fantastically, and if you're in those stealthy positions and you're in a bush location, you will get some good assistance damage. You will be able to spot your own targets very, very easily at this tier. You got 0.73 accuracy during rotation with a 2.21 accuracy during movement, which, as a pair, is actually not too bad for this kind of tank destroyer. It means the aim circle doesn't bloom out that badly, and you've got a 1.82 second aim time as well, which means you can get the gun aimed in very, very quickly too. And with 0.31 accuracy at 100 meters, just like the previous tank, this gun is very, very accurate with its 88mm gun when you get it fully aimed in, which again is an asset for the vehicle. 5 degrees of gun depression, however, is limiting, once again, and is a royal pain for the tank. It means you've really, because especially since it's quite a tall vehicle, you've really got to come over a ridgeline to be able to get the gun down on target. 15 degrees to the left and 15 degrees to the right is what this turretless tank destroyer can do with its gun. That's as far as left and right you can look. 6.47 second reload is 2.5, nearly 2.6k DPM, which, as you can see, farms pretty hard when you get it into the right position to be able to start shooting the enemy team. 203 penetration on the standard AP, 237 penetration on the premium APCR is the same as the Tiger 1 gun, with 1,000 meters a second shell velocity on the AP, 1250 on the APCR, and 280 alpha. So the velocities are just bang on average, or just above average, which is decent for the gun at this tier. Penetration is enough to pen everything you're going to face. 280 alpha is actually quite nice at this tier as well. Generally, the gun is pretty fantastic. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, I run the same crew skills that I ran on the previous vehicle, but this time with the equipment, I run the advanced loader, the improved concealment, the binos, and the camo net. Now, I run the improved concealment and the camo net because I want to get the best concealment I can get when I'm stationary after the 3 seconds, same as getting the best view range I can with the binos, but the improved concealment gives me better camo while moving, which actually gives me the same camo while moving as if I ran the low noise exhaust, which is why I don't do it on this tank, so that I can get the better concealment while moving, as well as while I'm stationary before the camo net activates as well. That's why I run them both together. As visually, that game there with a very average total for the tank, 1256 base XP, 2 kills, 2053 damage. Yeah, very average game in there for the Nashorn, which is a vehicle, like I say, that I'm not a big fan of, quite honestly. And I feel like that it's just a bit of a step down compared to the Death Toaster previous to it, just because the Death Toaster has that mobility to get into the position, and the gun is realistically just as good, just not quite got the DPM. But now we're on to a very funny tank, and that is the Emil at tier 7. This vehicle is a funny vehicle. It's one of those that is just a bit odd. It's a very slow vehicle. It's very slow compared to the previous 2 tanks. It's got decent camo. Not great. It's got a big honking gun in this 128mm gun, which is beautiful. The penetration's okay, but it only gets 2 types of rounds. It's got absolutely no armour. And it's basically a vacuum cleaner, because it's got 15 degrees of gun depression, which is lovely. The problem is the tank is most definitely, because of the speed and because of a lack of ammunition, although it's better these days than it ever used to be, but because of a lack of ammunition and that sort of thing, and generally the gun also feels a bit derpier. Even though the statistics are actually pretty decent, it sometimes just likes to sit there missing shots that you sit there going, why gun? Great, thanks for that. And it's just a bit of a funny tank. It's definitely a tank you need to be in the right position to get the damage out, but it's just very awkward. It's a very awkward vehicle to play, and it can be a royal pain at times, which is why I picked this replay, because again, I did have a couple of games that were actually a little bit better, but I think this replay, to be honest, shows the tank that little bit best at what it does, as also how awkward it can be, because the yaw limit is also very limiting and very weird in the fact that it's got 5 degrees to the left and 7 degrees to the right in terms of how far to the left and right you can look with this tank. And because your accuracy during movement and rotation isn't great, or should I say your accuracy during rotation isn't great, it means the aim circle blooms out a fair bit as well, which just, again, makes it very awkward when things are moving quite quickly. If you get into a good position where you can farm, like we're seeing here, and things like to drive up in front of you, you can do damage quite consistently, but it doesn't always get to work out like that for the Emil. So the Emil, with the build that we run, it's got a 25 km/h top speed, 12 km/h reverse speed, 450 horsepower engine, which is 12.33 horsepower per ton ratio, and with the 2.01 on soft, 1.05 on medium, and 0.96 on firm, those ground distances are actually pretty good, and they don't particularly hold the tank back that often, which is lovely. But a 12.33 horsepower per ton ratio means you are pretty sluggish, and with a 25 km/h top speed, that's very slow. And that's a royal pain for the Emil, to be honest. And it struggles to get into positions it wants to be in to be able to do the damage quite often, which, pain. 40.05 degrees a second hull rotation speed, sorry, which means the tank does actually turn pretty quickly on its tracks, which is great. You've actually got 31.29 degree a second turret rotation speed, which I didn't mention for the previous 2, but turret rotation speed in this instance for a turretless TD actually means how fast the gun traverses left or right. So it does actually mean something, that statistic. But it's got 31 degrees to the left and right, which means, again, it turns pretty fast on its gun. You got 297 meters of still concealment, which, again, is decent, but it's not fantastic. 316 on the move concealment with the build that we run, which, again, is actually pretty decent. It means that you can get into position quite easily. But you've got a big honking gun, which means when you fire, it's quite easy to get it spotted at times, which can be annoying, because it's very medium tank-esque. Decent medium tank-esque camo, that is. So, yeah, the camo can be a bit awkward. I don't run a camo net on this vehicle like the previous 2 vehicles for the pure thing that the yaw limit is a pain. And the amount of times you've got to turn left and right to get the gun on target means the camo net keeps deactivating all the time, meaning you lose concealment quite significantly if you do it. So it just made it very awkward, and every time you had to turn to get the gun on target, you just got spotted instantly. It was so super frustrating, and I just stopped running that as a personal preference. 489 meters of view range, though, is very, very good, and that we don't need binocs for that. That's just with optics, and that is very, very good for the Stirrer Mill, and that means you can spot for yourself fantastically at all times. You do not have to wait for the binocs. And you're seeing also gun elevation issues that we're having here with the Stirrer Mill. I thought it might actually have better gun elevation, but no, we're really struggling with this position we're in, but there we go. So, the vehicle does have a 1.71 accuracy during rotation, which is atrocious, and it means every time you turn, the aim circle becomes quite large, like you're seeing there. But you do actually have a 1.24 accuracy during movement, which means when you move this tank, as long as you don't turn left or right, the accuracy isn't actually that bad, and the aim circle doesn't bloom out that badly. You got a 0.34 accuracy at 100 meters as well, which is still decently accurate, but you're starting to get a bit more derpy, but it's still a fairly accurate standard, that, at 0.34. You've got 2.11 second aim time, which is that little bit longer than the previous two vehicles, which means it does take a little bit longer to get this gun aimed in, and especially after you've turned left or right, it can feel like it takes a little bit, as you can see here with the aim time, trying to get the shot in on this conceiver. You got 10 degrees of elevation, which is what we've been struggling with in this replay. 15 degrees of gun depression, though, is utterly insane. And again, it's like a Hoover. It can look right down at the floor, and that is quite funky for this vehicle. It's very, very good on ridge lines for that. And realistically, it's where this vehicle wants to be. It wants to be on a ridge line in some bush cover, and you'll be laughing with it. I'm quite surprised that that didn't pen. We've got 11.8 second reload, which is 2.5k DPM, which is actually pretty decent DPM at tier 7 for a tank destroyer, and especially for one that hits as hard as this. Because yes, it does hit hard for the tier. 490 alpha, 630 on the HE, with this 128mm gun. It packs a punch. It's just trying to get it into position to actually be able to pack that punch. 231 penetration on the standard AP. 65 on the HE means the 231 AP pen is good enough to go through most things you're going to face. It only starts to struggle when you get against tier 9 heavies, and some of the tier 9 heavies can be a royal pain for this thing to pen, but 231 is still enough to go through a lot of weak spots. And 65 HE is not that usable, honestly, compared to your ammunition amount that you get in this vehicle. But it's good enough that I load 1 just for the ability to throw it at an artillery and get that extra bit of damage. But you only have 26 rounds of ammunition in this vehicle, which is very limiting. So it's one of those that you want to just make sure that you carry mostly AP, because you don't want to be in a situation where you fire a lot, miss a lot, and then realise you're running out of rounds and go, oh boy, this is a bit awkward. You've got 880 meters a second shell velocity on both rounds as well, which means that they are below average in terms of shell velocity. You've got to give a good amount of lead at distance to be able to hit your targets, and if you don't lead them well enough, just like that on the Panzerjäger, you end up missing your shells and sit there frustrated, as you have to sit there for a pretty long reload, realistically. Although, oh, thanks gun, that was great of you. But yeah, although for 490 alpha, that's actually a pretty decent reload at this tier. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on the Stirrer Mill? Well, I run a fairly similar crew to what I've run on the previous two vehicles, but the equipment obviously has changed. So what do I run on this crew and equipment? Well, I run the Born Leader, the Camouflage Apprentice, the Green Thumb, the Situational Awareness, Run and Gun, Radio Jamming, Clutch Braking, Trap Mechanic, Armour Angling, for the same reasons I've run it on the previous two, reducing the amount of damage coming to the tank by 5%, getting the accuracy during movement down, getting the track traverse to be faster so we can get the gun on target quicker, staying unspotted 3 seconds faster with the radio jamming, generally getting the concealment down on these vehicles because they don't have any armor, so staying unspotted is key with the Camouflage Apprentice and the Green Thumb. Same as running the improved concealment on this vehicle, because again, like I said earlier on, I don't run the camo net like we do on the previous two, purely because we're constantly turning to get this gun on target because the yaw limit's a bit limiting and it's really annoying. And then low noise exhaust to go alongside it so that we stay unspotted easier while trying to move into position like you've just seen here. Optics, because we can spot for ourselves with the 489 meters of view range, which is very, very nice, and that means we don't have to wait for binocs to activate, and the advanced loader to get the best out of the DPM for the tank. But yeah, the Stirrer Mill is one of those that I actually want to try and go back and 3-mark one day, purely because it's just a weird vehicle. It's one of those that's just interesting. It's a royal pain, and I'm putting it out there. A lot of people will not like this tank whatsoever, because it is a royal pain to play. But it's one of those that, even though it is a royal pain, it's just interesting. And trying to get the most out of it is definitely something that will be an interesting challenge for sure. But again, and it hits hard as well, which it scratches that itch. Hitting for 490 at tier 7 is lovely. But like I say, it is very, very awkward. It's not the tallest tank in the universe, which means it can be very awkward to find the right position to use the gun. And then you've got 15 degrees of gun depression, which is fantastic, but you're very, very slow. And no armour, it just struggles at times. It really does, the Stirrer Mill. So we finished the game there with the Stirrer Mill, with the 2 kills, 2,068 damage, 1261 assistance damage, the second class, with the 34 base XP, sorry, which is a very, very average game yet again for the Stirrer Mill, but I feel like that game showed it off better than some of the other games that I had, where you have that nice alpha, it hits hard, when you get fully aimed, you get people that like to go and pop up and you can get good, easy shots into people. It's great. It's lovely. But when you get that more awkward, you've got to keep trying to turn your gun and turn your tank to get into the position to shoot things at times. It can be really awkward. Trying to find the right spot is a bit awkward. The gun elevation can be very awkward as well. And you're just that little bit too slow to be able to keep up sometimes with... It's like, oh boy, there's things to shoot over there. I've got to get there. I've got to get there. I've got to get there. And then they're dead. Or they get unspotted. And you sit there going, damn it. Sad times. But now we're on to the Tier 8, and the Tier 8 is the Rhm Bsig, which there is a premium version of this vehicle, which is the Iron Rain, which a lot of people know as well, which has the 3-shot autoloader, and it's basically like a mini Waffle E100, realistically, with the fact that it can delete things quite easily with the 3-shot clip. But also the gun handling on that, on the general gun performance on that vehicle, is a lot worse than this tank is. And I actually prefer this version, purely because the gun performance on this 128mm gun is that wee bit nicer, and it just feels more consistent in getting the damage out at times, especially when the gun likes the Derp with the Iron Rain. You sit there going, oh, come on! And it can be a royal pain because the reload is also exceptionally long on that tank. Now, I will have another video out on the Rhm Bsig at some point, because someone did ask for it for the Pick series, and I've got replays ready to go for both guns, the 128 and the 150mm gun for this vehicle, so there will be that as well if you wanted to see more action for this tank. So, the Bsig is one that, again, I'm not a big fan of it. It's not exactly my playstyle, to be perfectly honest. And the big gun doesn't do it for me. The 128 is definitely the best gun for the vehicle. It feels more satisfying to use and get the most out of, which is why I tend to use it more often than this for the memes. But generally, this is the best gun for the tank, the 128mm gun. So what's the statistics like for the Rhm Bsig? Well, on this vehicle, you've got a 35km/h top speed, 12km/h reverse speed, 207 horsepower engine, which is 9.98 horsepower per ton ratio, 1.82 on soft, 1.05 on medium, and a 0.86 on firm. Means your ground resistances are fantastic, but your mobility is poor, generally, on the Bsig, same as the Iron Rain. 35km/h top speed is average. It's a very averagey top kind of speed, but again, for this kind of very stealthy, lightly armoured vehicle, it's a bit of a pain. It feels very slow. It is quite slow. 12km/h reverse speed is also very slow and is very, very limiting. 9.98 horsepower per ton ratio is poor, and it means you are very slow to get and sluggish to get up to that top speed as well. 15% internal fire chance, by the way, and I never mentioned the fire chances on the others. They all do have very high fire chances at 20%. This one has 15%, which is in the middle, and it does like getting set on fire, and it's got the same issue that the whole line has, which is you get shot anywhere in the hull, your engine breaks, and quite often you get set on fire, so you've got to be careful of that, definitely, with these vehicles. 40 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed means the tank does turn pretty quickly on its tracks, and it does have a turret. This is the first of the turreted tank destroyers for this line, and you've got 30.10 degrees a second turret rotation speed, which, actually, for a turreted tank destroyer, is pretty quick. It's not fast turret traverse, but it's pretty quick for a turreted tank destroyer. A lot of the time they have very slow turrets. You've got 201 meters of still concealment with the build that we run, which is incredible. 327 meters of on-the-move concealment, which is still pretty good, realistically. And then when you wait for the camera to activate, that 201 meters of still concealment is pure filth. And it can be a royal pain to get this tank spotted. And if you use bush cover, it is filth. It is so good camouflage-wise. And you'll probably see that in the Pick video when I do get round to making that video. You got 507 meters of view range with the binoculars as well, which is very, very good view range. Really helps for you to spot for yourself and spot your own targets to be able to get this beautiful 128mm gun working. You've got 0.93 accuracy during rotation with a 1.66 accuracy during movement, which as a pair is actually not too bad for the Rhm Bsig, which is unusual again for a tank destroyer. And it means the aim circle doesn't bloom out that horrifically. But you do have a 2.21 second aim time, which isn't the best, and you will feel it at times, but because the aim circle doesn't bloom out that badly, it's actually not bad, realistically. 0.33 accuracy at 100 meters as well is accurate. The gun likes to hit most of its shots, although occasionally RNGesus does like to go hee and, you know, hit the floor, which can be a royal pain for this vehicle, but generally it's a very accurate gun, and that's where the difference is for me with the Bsig compared to the Iron Rain. Oh, as we missed, or should I say ricochet that shot on the Dragon, and he snapshots us. Great. But yeah, that's the difference between the Iron Rain and this vehicle for me, is the Iron Rain, the gun feels a lot derpier, and it's really frustrating, especially for how long the reload is on that clip. Whereas this thing, it's pretty accurate, and it feels more consistent. 5 degrees of gun depression as well, very, very limiting, very, very poor, but you are very low to the ground, so it doesn't feel as bad as on the previous vehicles, or should I say the Tier 5 and the Tier 6, but still 5 degrees of gun depression is poor. 9.76 second reload is 3k DPM, which is fantastic. Fantastic DPM at Tier 8, especially for 490 Alpha, which is lovely on this 128mm gun. So very, very good DPM indeed, which is what we're starting to get to the point where, well, it's a general trend for the line anyway, but we're starting to get to that point where we're going, oh yeah, we've got DPM, and we hit quite decently hard as well. Oh, great ricochet. Thanks, gun. But yeah, we're starting to get to the point where we've got good alpha and we've got great DPM, and it's generally a trend for this line is that good DPM and the slightly higher alpha for the tier. You got 246mm of penetration on the standard AP, 311 penetration on the premium APCR, and 65 pen on the HE. It is the gun from either the Ferdinand or the E75, etc. It's that same gun that you get on that, and even the E100 has this 128mm gun. Same penetration, same alpha damage. You got 490 alpha, like I say. The 246 on AP, the 311 on APCR is fantastic. Pens most vehicles you're going to face. 920 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, and 1,150 meters a second shell velocity on the premium APCR is below average on the AP, but above average on the APCR. I mean, you don't have to give too much lead distance to be able to hit your targets with that APCR round, but the AP round is below average, and you've got to give a good amount of lead at distance to be able to hit your targets with that. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, I've switched on to the turreted tank destroyer crew, which is stealthy. The Born Leader, situational awareness, camouflage expertise, green thumb, run and gun, snapshot, rapid aim, expert gunner with radio jamming, the advanced loader, the binos, the camo net, and the flash hider. Flash hider and the camo net. So the camo net with the camouflage expertise and green thumb to stay unspotted, that a little bit easier, and have that filthy camo of 201 meters of steel concealment. The flash hider helps me to stay unspotted easier when I'm using that bush cover as well, and just in general by 33% when I fire the gun. Radio jamming to get unspotted 3 seconds faster, as you always want to do with these kinds of stealthy tank destroyers. Expert gunner to increase the chance of doing mod damage by 6%. Advanced loader to get the best out of the DPM. Snapshot and run and gun to be able to get as good accuracy during rotation and movement as you can, since you can't run the gun stabilizer. And rapid aim to make the turret traverse better, as it's nice to be able to do that on a turreted tank destroyer, as they generally are quite slow in terms of their traverse. But I run that crew all the way for the rest of this line in the Tier 9 and the Tier 10 as well. But the equipment will change when we get there. But yeah, that's what I run in terms of the Bsig. As we unfortunately get caught out by the SFAC 105, as you can see, I was starting to move back that way, and if I'd been a split second faster, I would have been able to get that SFAC 105. But we're facing again with 5 kills, 4.3k damage, the 616 assistance damage, the first class, which is a pretty good game there for the Bsig, just showing off what it is capable of with the 1808 base XP. There was bits in that game where you could see where the camo is very, very nice when you get it set up. You could see the DPM that gets rip-roaring when it wants to go. The gun is generally pretty consistent, but occasionally can derp, like the 2 shells that we had on the Dragon and the T-34-100. But it is just pretty consistent, and it is a very nice tank to play indeed. Not my kind of tank destroyer, honestly. I don't particularly like the Bsig, but it's one of those that is a good tank destroyer at Tier 8, even though obviously I don't like it, but that doesn't make the tank bad. If you don't like something, it doesn't make your tank bad, it just means that you don't get on with it. But now we're on to a tank destroyer that I do like, and I do like the Waffle Panzer IV, but not with this gun. This is the 128mm gun on the Waffle Panzer IV. This is the best gun for the tank, which is why you are seeing it. But I prefer the big gun. I prefer the 150mm gun, which is basically the gun that you get on the E100. Or the Waffle E100, which is after you as well. So I prefer that gun massively because the alpha is lovely while still having other things that you get on this tank. But I'm going to show the best gun for the tank, which is the 128mm gun, and the best gun for probably most people as well. So with the Waffle Panzer IV, again, you are not the fastest in the universe, but you've got good view range without binocs. You've got decent camouflage. I say decent. You've got good camouflage, although you could get it better if you wanted to run a camo net, because I don't. You've got great DPM. You've got fantastic penetration on this gun, which is why I use it and why I say it is the better gun on this vehicle, because you get the fantastic penetration that you never struggle with, whereas you don't have the best penetration on the other two guns. I should say the other gun, not the other two, the other gun. Meanwhile, you still have pretty good DPM on it, but you don't have the penetration, and the accuracy is so much better on this thing, as well as the shell velocity with the 560 Alpha. It's the same gun that's on the Jag Tiger, but this gun is one of those that kind of annoys me at times, because sometimes it doesn't feel like it works quite as well as it should. Whereas the 150, for some reason for me, just worked better. But then that's a personal preference thing. That really is a personal preference thing. But the Waffle Panzer IV, it's got a 38 km/h top speed, 12 km/h reverse speed, 400 horsepower engine, which is 14.54 horsepower per ton ratio, and again with the 1.82 on soft, 1.25 on medium, and a 1.05 on firm. Ground resistances aren't too bad, they don't hold the tank back whatsoever. The power to weight isn't actually that bad, so you will get up to the 38 km/h top speed on this vehicle, which it can be pretty decent. But again, it's not the fastest tank in the universe, so sometimes getting into those positions that you want to be in can be a bit sluggish and slow. 12 km/h reverse speed is also very slow, as you can see here, which can be a real pain. You've got to bear in mind with the gun depression on this vehicle, though, going over the back of the tank like we are here with the 128 is the best course of action, generally, for the vehicle, or looking over the side, as you don't actually get that much gun depression over the front of the tank. But yeah, we've got the 36 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, which means it does turn decently quickly on its tracks from left to right. You've got 25.47 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, which means the vehicle does have a pretty slow turret traverse, as opposed to the previous vehicle in the Bsig, which had a lot quicker turret traverse for a turreted tank destroyer. A lot of turreted tank destroyers generally have very slow turret traverse, and this is no different. 25.47 is pretty slow, which is why we run rapid aim to get it that bit faster up to what it is currently at. You got 281 meters of still concealment with the build that we run, which means if you sit still, the camo is very, very nice, and it can actually be quite difficult to get this tank spotted. And 329 meters of on the move concealment as well means that it's decent concealment for on the move, but it can get spotted trying to move into it. It's one of those one of those tanks that you want to get into position and just sit still. Don't keep moving like we're doing here. Just get into a position where you sit there and wait. Get your camo to be 281, fantastic. Stay unspotted easier until you actually fire the gun. 501 meters of view range, though, is very, very good for the Waffle Panzer IV, and it's always been good in that regard. Spotting its own targets by just running optics is definitely very nice for the Waffle Panzer IV, and you've got very good view range indeed. You've got a 0.92 accuracy during rotation with a 1.95 accuracy during movement, which means as a pair, they aren't the best in the universe, and the gun does they just bloom out a fair bit, but you have 2.01 second aim time, which means it doesn't take that long to get the gun fully aimed in. And with 0.32 accuracy at 100 meters as well, this gun is generally pretty damn accurate, and it is a thing for both this gun and the one on the Grille 15. They're both very accurate guns, and they are very, very consistent in what they do. Obviously, the Grille 15 is a massive step up, but still, the Waffle Panzer IV has that general nice accuracy on the gun, which is why I say that this is the best gun for the tanks. The 15cm is that bit more derpy and a bit more inconsistent generally, especially with the shell velocity being a lot slower as well, which is why it's one of those that is definitely an acquired taste. It's one that I prefer, but it's definitely an acquired taste. You got 5 degrees of gun depression, like I said earlier, which you only really get over the side of the tank and the rear. As you can see, the front bumps up, and that means you only get 2 degrees of gun depression over the front of the tank. So the gun depression over the front is poor, so bear that in mind. You want to be looking over the back of the tank most of the time, or over to the side before that bump in the upper plate happens, pretty much, or where the engine deck is. You've got 45 degrees of elevation, though, which means you have very, very good gun elevation. It means you don't struggle to get the gun up, which is great. You've got a 9.67 second reload, which is 3.4k, nearly 3.5k DPM. Yeah, the DPM is phenomenal on this vehicle, just like it is on a Jag Tiger and stuff like that. Very, very good DPM. Means you, again, if you're in a good, solid, farmy location, you absolutely rinse people very, very easily. And the DPM is just fantastic for this tank, and it's definitely one of the big strengths. Same as the penetration, which is 276mm of penetration on the AP. 352mm of penetration on the premium APCR, and 65mm of penetration on the HE. So again, the HE with 700 alpha with the 65 pen is decent enough to go through the lightly armoured artilleries and stuff like that, and that really ups your DPM if you smash them with those HE rounds. But the AP and the APCR don't struggle to pen most things you're going to face. The penetration is fantastic, and it's lovely to have on this vehicle. 560 alpha as well is very, very nice. You see lots of rolls that go between 520 to 600, and it is very, very impactful when you get the shells down range, as it really does hurt a lot of the tanks you hit with it. You've got 1200 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, and 1500 meters a second shell velocity on the premium APCR. So the velocities on both are very, very nice, and again, they are just lovely for the vehicle. It means you don't have to give too much lead at distance to be able to hit your targets with the AP, and the APCR is just even better. It just flies straight to target. It is beautiful for this Waffle Panzer IV with this 128mm gun. But yeah, the 128mm gun is genuinely a beauty with the penetration, the DPM, the accuracy, all that good stuff. It's just a solid gun to use for the vehicle. It really is. Naturally, like I say, if you're running the 15cm gun on this tank, you do have the 246 pen, the 334 heat pen. So the AP pen is a bit lacking, but the heat pen is great. You've got the 750 alpha, but you do lose 300 DPM, or, well, 250 odd DPM anyway, with it, which is obviously a little bit more lacking than the 128. Your accuracy is 0.36 as opposed to the 0.32. You've got worse aim time. Also, the gun depression is a bit more awkward because your elevation is poor on this thing, especially when you aim over the back of the tank. So that's also awkward, as well as shell velocity being 757 on the AP and 606 on the heat rounds. Yeah, that gun is a lot more awkward to use at times, and that's why I say that most people will get on better with the 128mm gun, but the 150 is my baby, alright? I just love it. It hits so hard, it's beautiful. But that shouldn't be too big a surprise for most people if you've been watching the channel for long enough, because as you know, I am an alpha whore. I do like the higher alpha guns, and if a tank has the option to have a higher alpha gun, even if it's generally worse in most ways than the other gun, I will still end up using it because, well, memes, and also it's just nice to generally have the higher alpha at times. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on this vehicle? Well, I run the same crew that I run on the Grille 15, same crew as I ran on the Bsig, the Born Leader, the Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Green Thumb, the Rapid Aim, the Run and Gun, the Snapshot, the Expert Gunner, the Radio Jamming, the Advanced Loader, Optics, Improved Concealment, Flash Hider. Now, I run the same setup that I run on this tank as I run on the Grille 15, and that's because I want to get the best DPM out of the tank with the advanced loader, optics to be able to get the 501 meters of view range so we can spot for ourselves at all times without having to set up binos, the improved concealment to get the 281 meters of still concealment as well as helping out the on-the-move concealment that little bit as well, flash hider to keep ourselves unspotted while firing that little bit easier as well by 33%, radio jamming to keep ourselves unspotted 3 seconds faster again for this stealthy kind of tank destroyer, perfect thing to do, expert gunner to increase the chance of doing module damage like Armour hacking things and setting people on fire, rapid aim to get the turret traverse to be quicker, camouflage expertise and green thumb to get the camo to be better on this tank in conjunction with that improved concealment, and then the run and gun and the snapshot to get the best accuracy during turret rotation and movement as we can possibly get, so that we can get this aim circle down as much as possible while on the move or turn the turret, and again we can get this gun singing faster. So we finished the game there with the Waffle Panzer IV with the 5.1k damage, 702 damage. We could have got a little bit extra there if we hadn't been hesitant with going after those two guys, but, well, they decided to drown themselves. So we finished the game with the 3 kills, the 5,100 damage, 702 assistance, the first class, the sniper medal, with the base XP of 1679. Pretty good game there for the Waffle Panzer IV, showing off what it's capable of. Like I say, this tank is a really solid tier 9 tank destroyer. Very, very nice indeed for a stealthy tank destroyer. And it's a great setup for the Grille 15, and I think it's why I like the 15cm on the Waffle Panzer IV as well, is it gives you that little bit more nuances to how you're going to be playing the Grille 15 in terms of finding the right positions to be able to get that 750 alpha out. But the Grille 15, which you are now seeing, we're at the pinnacle of the line, the Grille 15, and like I say, the on-track series video for the Waffenträger E100 is going to be just a separate video of just the Waffenträger E100 with both guns, so you get to see the nuances of that tank as well, and just to try and keep this video's time frame down, essentially. And also makes it easier for me to record the videos, as it's very, very long, and it takes a long time to make these videos. But I digress. Grille 15, we're at the pinnacle of the line, and the Grille 15 is just that massive step up. And naturally, as you want, going from a tier 9 to a tier 10, that's the way it's going to be. But it is a huge step up. It is such a good tank. It is probably one of the best stealthy, turreted armorless TDs at tier 10. It's the German version of the Tyrann, and naturally the Tyrann did get nerfed, which makes it probably the second best tank behind this vehicle, but that's still saying something, seeing as that tank is still absolutely fantastic, and this vehicle is just slightly better than it in terms of feeling more comfortable to play. And that's the way I put it, in the fact that the Tyrann is that little bit nicer in terms of the way the concealment is, and the harder hitting gun at 850, and you still have the DPM, but this tank has that nicer mobility in terms of getting to its top speed. It's still got good camo, or reasonable camo anyway. The gun handling is phenomenal, and that's where it feels more nice to play compared to the Tyrann, and it feels more comfortable to play than the Tyrann, and it's more consistent than the Tyrann, because the gun handling on this vehicle is phenomenal. One of the best guns you're going to play in World War II. It is just so good at what it does, and that is consistently chonking out 750 alpha rounds, because it just hits so consistently. It's a beautiful vehicle, lovely to play, and it's a tank that you are going to see a video on in the near future again, because as you'll see after this replay, or after the next replay even, I think we're at 93% nearly on the mark, and I just went and finished it off. So you're going to see another video on this tank at some point 3-marking it. Same as the SU-152 Tyrann, because we did actually 3-mark that fairly recently as well. But I digress. The Grille 15, beautiful tank, one of the best TDs at tier 10, easily. It's got 60 km/h top speed, 15 km/h reverse speed, 850 horsepower engine, which is 21.25 horsepower per ton ratio, which means the vehicle gets to its top speed easily. It's a very, very mobile TD. You got 1.92 soft, 1.15 on medium, and 1.05 on firm, meaning the ground resistances don't hold the tank back that badly either. 24 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, though, is a bit slow, and that means the track traverse is just that little bit slow for the Grille 15, which holds it back a little bit. You got 30.10 degrees a second turret rotation speed, which is actually pretty decent, again, for a turreted tank destroyer. You got 296 meters of still concealment, with 348 meters of on-the-move concealment. Now, the 296 meters of still concealment is decent, again, when you're in the bush cover and you're staying stationary. It's quite difficult to get this tank spotted. But the on-the-move concealment can be a bit of a pain for the Grille 15, and it means it can be a bit difficult to get it into position without getting spotted. But you could, if you wanted to, run the low-noise exhaust to be able to get that camo during movement down as low as possible, meaning that you can get into position that little bit easier. 476 meters of view range means you can spot for yourself decently. Well, it's not the best view range in the universe, but it's just good enough that you can see what you need to. You got 1.75 accuracy during rotation with a 3.6 accuracy during movement, which again, for a turreted TD, is fairly standard. It's not very good, and it means the aim circle does bloom out quite a lot on the Grille 15. But, you've got a 1.44 second aim time, which is amazing aim time. It means this gun aim, the aim circle just goes, ready to go really quickly, which is great for the tank. You got a 0.26 accuracy at 100 meters, which means this gun is superbly accurate, and it means it can just hit pixel snipes so easily as well, which is great for the vehicle, as unfortunately we get shut down there in that game and end up with the defeat. But it showed what the tank can do in such a short space of time. It was just a case of a lot of tanks went to the beach, none of their team went to the beach, and we crumbled on top quite quickly as we finished with the 7.7k damage, the second class, the sniper, the high caliber, 812 base XP. Again, a very good game for the Grille 15, and what you could do in such a short space of time that we were alive there with this tank in just consistently playing that peekaboo style, where you can just keep going bang, 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 and the gun just keeps hitting all the shots you want to hit, and you can just keep that damage rolling, which was lovely to be able to do in the Grille 15. Just a shame that we ended up losing that. But yeah, you've got the 0.26 accuracy at 100 meters, which is superb. This gun is genuinely superb. It is one of the best ones you'll play at tier 10 in World War II, just one of the best in World War II in general. You've got 8 degrees of gun depression, which is solid, and is a lot better than pretty much the whole line, which was generally 5 degrees, unless you count the Stirrer Mill, which is the odd one out. But 8 degrees is good enough to be able to get the gun down on target in a lot of different areas. You got 14-second reload, or 14.01 second reload, which is 3.2k DPM, which means the DPM is a little bit of a step down compared to the Waffle Panzer IV before you, but again, you've got that 750 alpha, which is great. 950 alpha on the HE, which is 75mm of penetration, which is great for using against quite a lot of lightly armoured tanks, like artillery and stuff like that, for being able to up your alpha to that 950. The 750 is that little bit lower than the general average of a lot of vehicles, which is generally 850 for a lot of TDs, but 750, with that slightly quicker reload, even though your DPM is fairly consistent compared to all the others that have 850, is still pretty decent. 279 on the AP, 334 on the heat rounds, means you don't really struggle to pen things either, as the penetration is fantastic on this tank. The 1200 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, and the 900 meters a second shell velocity on the heat. So the AP is above average in terms of that velocity, and it's very, very nice velocity indeed. But the heat rounds are 900 meters a second, and that is a lot slower. So the heat rounds will feel that little bit derpier, and you've just got to bear in mind, if you load heat, you have to give a lot more lead at distance to be able to hit your targets with that heat round. So just be careful of that. But yeah, the general Grille 15 stats, the Grille 15, it's a lovely vehicle, honestly. Like I say, it is one of the best TDs at tier 10 for a stealthy turret tank destroyer, and you can't go wrong with it, quite honestly. The Waffenträger E100 is more of a meme vehicle, and it's dirty as well for when you can just clip things out, but it's definitely more of a meme vehicle and definitely more of an acquired taste. This is definitely more of your average tank destroyer gameplay that you can have a lot of fun with, get into aggressive positions with the mobility, and then just keep the consistency of this gun chonking out. So what do I run in terms of recruit and equipment for the Grille 15? Well, I run Born Leader, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Green Thumb, Expert Gunner, Radio Jamming, the Snapshot, the Run and Gun, the Rapid Aim, with the Advanced Loader, the Optics, the Improved Concealment, and the Flash Hider. So the exact same crew around on the Waffle Panzer IV before it, and the same reasons realistically. Optics to be able to get the 473 meters of view range. The Improved Concealment with the Camouflage Expertise and Green Thumb to be able to get the 296 meters of still concealment, so we can stay unspotted that little bit easier, especially when we get to good bush locations. Flash Hider to stay unspotted that bit easier, when we fire the gun, because there's so many situations that Flash Hider actually pays off, that you really notice between not running it and running it, that you'll be in bush cover, you'll fire, you think, oh, I'm going to get spotted, and then you don't, and you go, oh, okay then. And it's really, really nice for that. Really, really is. Radio jamming, obviously, we're staying unspotted 3 seconds faster because we want to be able to do that. The Snapshot and Run and Gun to get the accuracy during movement and rotation down as low as possible, since we're not allowed to run a gun stabilizer, so that the aim circle doesn't bloom out that horrifically. But we've got a 1.44 second aim time, so even though the accuracy during movement and rotation isn't that great, even though we've helped it out, you don't feel it that badly because the aim time is just generally that good. If you wanted to, you could run the camo net, and if you were to run a camo net on this vehicle instead of the improved concealment, your concealment without the improved concealment is 326. And if you were to put the camo net on, then you also get 267 meters of still concealment, which is amazing. But your on the move concealment is now 377, which is horrendous. So that's where you might think, okay, I need to drop the flash hider for something like no noise exhaust, or just improved concealment, because improved concealment actually helps you on the move concealment just as much as low noise exhaust does. So, yeah, it's one of those. It's really down to personal preference. How you're going to get the best out of it, as setups for cruising equipment generally, is how you're going to get the best out of the tank, as what I run might not work for you. So this second game here in the Grille 15, we're on Karelia. We're up to 3.9k damage, 1674 assistance damage, and there's currently 6 tanks left alive on the enemy team. And we've got 8 tanks left alive, which means we are actually winning. But we've got to be very, very careful, because we know where pretty much most of them are. There's going to be 1 or 2 camping around the corner at K6, but a lot of them are just going to be chilling in their base. And as there is a Grille 15 and a RHM Bsig out there, they are pretty stealthy, just like we are, so we just got to wait for our team to push in and spot them, because they are starting to push in. There's the Bsig, snap in. Again, that is exactly what this gun is like. It just snapshots like a boss. The gun handling is fantastic. The aim time is fantastic. This gun is so reliable. When the targets get lit up, you just go, hello, bang, and you hit it majority of the time. It's such a good experience of a tank to play because of that consistency with this gun on the Grille 15. It really, really is. So we're waiting for, again, the tanks to keep pushing in, because there's no point pushing too soon, but they've pushed into a position that I'm starting to think I'm not seeing anything. So I wonder if they're at K2, K3, which the position I'm in might not be the best for getting shots at them, but I might be able to get shots at them from down here. So there we go. We see the M5355, snap the shot in. Good night, sir. Wait on the reload for the Grille 15, but he gets shut down by the FB 4005, up to 5,400 damage, the 2K assistance damage. There's the E100, which is in a position we can just see the side of his turret. Set up, fire through the side. I thought I was going to get spotted there, but I don't. That's because there's bush cover between me and the E100, and yet again, my camo is pretty damn solid. He's only 240 meters away. He just cannot see me as we get another shot through the side of his turret. But as you can see, that's where concealment comes into play, because the CS-59 drove through the bushes and drove into an open position while we were out in the open, and he spotted us as we fired at that E100. Thankfully, we get the reload in time to shut down Mr. E100, and we finish the game again with a very good total there for the Grille 15, the 7,174 damage, the 2k assistance, the victory, 4 kills, 1659 base XP, with the Ace Tanker, the Pascucci's Medal, the High Caliber. Really great game there for the Grille 15, showing off what it is capable of, and it's honestly a beautiful TD at tier 10. It is one of the best TDs at tier 10 quite easily. Very, very good at what it is, and it is currently on track to grind through. And the line itself is not too bad. It's one of those that you've just got to be very, very patient with, because if you are too aggressive, you'll get shut down very, very quickly. And it's not a great time for you if you are too aggressive in these vehicles. Although the Grille 15 can be quite aggressive. But yeah, bear in mind, the Waffenträger E100, I will have a separate video, which will be on-track add-on Waffenträger E100, showing off that with both guns and all that good stuff. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!